So, you ready?
Ready to go.
Good evening, everybody. Tonight is October 20th, 2021. This is the Oregon City Commission regular meeting, and it is now called to order. Mr. Wiley, will you please call the roll?
Commissioner Denise McGriff.
Present.
Commissioner Rocky Smith.
Here.
Commissioner Adam Marl.
Here.
Commissioner Frank O'Donnell is excused. Mayor Rachel Lyle Smith.
Here. Will you all please stand with me as we do the flag salute? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. So we actually have quite a number of ceremonies and proclamations, so it's going to be a fun night. And our first one that we have up is the VFW Post 1324, and they have a check presentation for the Veterans Memorial Plaza renovation. And I believe we're going to start off with Commander Arnold. Would you like to start with a statement?
Yes. Okay, so can you hear me okay now? Okay. Yes. So, Mayor Smith, members of the City Commission, and other guests, and my fellow VFW members and other people attending, good evening. Before we do the check presentation, I have just a few words concerning this, why we're doing this. So, Three Rivers VFW Post 1324's history with Mountain View Cemetery goes back decades. Yearly, we participate in its annual Memorial Day service. Post 1324 also performs by its honor guard, military rendering of honors for those veterans whose final resting place is at Mountain View Cemetery when requested. VFW Post 1324's leadership in the early 1950s helped to establish and took part in the original construction of the Veterans Memorial Plaza. So as a way of giving back to the community, it is only fitting that VFW Post 1324 makes this donation for its needed renovation and improvements. I was honored to be part of the original planning committee for the renovation and give input from a veteran's standpoint. We can do this because of the generous contributions made by the citizens of Oregon City and neighboring communities during our annual VFW Buddy Poppy Veterans Fund Drive. We hold that every May 21st through the 31st. You might have seen us at the Safeway stores. Even during the current COVID-19 pandemic, this year we raised over $43,000. So this year, VFW Post 1324 decided to make two significant contributions in addition to the other veteran organizations that we support. Our choices were the USS Oregon Commissioning Committee. We gave them $10,000 back in August. And today, for the Mountain View Cemetery Veterans Memorial Plaza renovation project. So, Mayor Smith, without any more ado and speechifying on my part, on behalf of the members of Three Rivers VFW Post 1324 of Oregon City, I present you with this check in the amount of $12,000 for the Mountain View Cemetery Veterans Memorial Plaza renovation. Should I bring this up forward, or how do you want to do this?
You can hang on to it for just a second. Sure. I think we'll be out there for a picture, but I have a couple of statements to make, if you'll allow me to do so.
Please do.
All right. So the Veterans Memorial Restoration Project kicked off this summer, and the first phase, focusing on creating ADA accessibility, is complete. The next phases involve installing a new concrete seat wall bench, improving stairs and handrails, relocating bronze memorial plaques, adding signage, and installing 5 podiums to recognize each of the armed forces. We are so grateful to the VFW Post 1324 for their partnership. The City of Oregon City takes pride in our enduring relationship with the VFW. It is our honor and obligation to help ensure that service members and branches of the military are appropriately recognized. This significant gift from the VFW will go a long way in moving forward the historic work that is happening at the Veterans Memorial Plaza. If you are watching this and you would like more information about the restoration project, please visit the city's website. You can find that there. And with that, I really appreciate it. And we're going to come down and take a couple of pictures and shake hands. And so the folks that with the VFW that wants to come up and our commissioners, we can pause for some pictures. All right. Commissioner Smith, you're missing out on all the festivities. All right, we're going to continue with our commission meeting. We were having lots of fun. All right, so we have 3 more proclamations, and just to be quick, I do want to read most of these, so I'm just going to read all 3 of them. October 2021 on the National Long-Term Care Residents' Rights Month, so see if I can say all this correctly. Whereas there are 1.3 million individuals living in 15,600 nursing homes and over 800,000 individuals living in 28,900 assisted living and residential care facilities in the U.S., And whereas there are approximately 197 individuals living in 3 nursing homes and approximately 337 individuals living in 2 assisted living residential care facilities in Oregon City, and whereas the Federal Nursing Home Reform Act of 1987 guarantees residents their individual rights in order to promote and maintain their dignity and autonomy, and whereas all residents should be aware of their rights so they may be empowered to live with dignity and self-determination, and whereas we wish to honor and celebrate these citizens, to recognize their rich individuality, and to reaffirm their right to vote and participate politically, including the right to have a say in their care. And whereas individuals and groups across the country will be celebrating Residents' Rights Month with the theme of Reclaiming My Rights, My Home, My Life, to highlight the need for residents' rights to be recognized, recovered, and reasserted. The theme emphasizes the recognition of the long-term care facility as the resident's home and the importance of a resident's reclaiming their own lives. Now, therefore, I, Rachel L. Smith, Mayor of Oregon City, do hereby proclaim October 2021 as National Long-Term Care Residents' Rights Month. And I encourage all citizens to join me in these important observances. So that was a mouthful, so I'm not going to repeat it, but we do have quite a number of people in long-term care facilities, and it's important that we recognize those and take care of our seniors that are out there. Yes, there is a group, and I'm probably not going to come up with their name right now, but yes.
Someone did.
Yes, that is representing the nursing homes and folks in long-term care facilities that brought this forward. So our second proclamation is declaring November 1st, 2021 as Extra Mile Day. And so I'm going to read I'm not going to read the proclamation, I'm actually going to read the letter that I wrote and sent to the individuals that I chose to recognize. So Extra Mile Day is a nationwide declaration by cities across the United States who are recognizing the impact of special people in their community who are going the extra mile in volunteerism and service. This year, Oregon City will celebrate Extra Mile Day on November 1st, 2021. Oregon City is participating with other cities by recognizing 3 individuals and/or their organizations who are making a difference and creating positive change in our community. As mayor, I have the pleasure of selecting individuals or their organizations that have made a positive impact in our community over the last year and continue to support our city by giving their time, talent, and effort. I'm happy to honor them or their respective organizations on Extra Mile Day. And so I chose 3 persons and and in some cases their organization. So the first is Sean Dockler. I apologize if I'm saying your last name wrong. I probably just said it wrong. Beginning in 2003, Sean has given many hours of service to our Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee, which is also known as PRAC. He has served on this committee for many years and has contributed to the construction of Wesley Linn Park, Tyrone S. Woods Memorial Park, and many more park improvements. He has represented neighborhoods with little to no voice and advocated for all neighborhoods in Oregon City to have a park nearby to visit. Sean is moving on to other nonprofit work, but his many hours supporting PRAC have definitely not gone unnoticed. The second person and organization is Brandy Johnson with Love One. Love One is a nonprofit serving Oregon City by providing laundry services, showers, meals, personal care resources, and community connections to individuals in need. Brandy Johnson is the director of Love One. She organizes volunteers, creates service programs in Oregon City, Milwaukee, and Malala, and advocates for low-income and homeless individuals who need assistance. Love for others is the foundation of Love One, and Brandy's efforts carry the organization's mission with great success. I believe we need more individuals in our community to lead with love, and I appreciate Brandy's tireless efforts to help our neighbors. Brandy cannot be here with us tonight because she's actually at a laundry event that was already scheduled. So she's out there doing her work and giving back. Our third and final person and organization I'm honoring is Jerry Herman with Rivers of Life. Rivers of Life is a nonprofit training and education organization for at-risk youth and young adults that specializes in environmental landscaping and natural resources preservation. Jerry Herman leads the work of the Rivers of Life Center in Oregon City and has worked diligently to preserve wetlands and natural areas in our community. He has a heart for our youth and spends many hours mentoring them to set them on a path to a successful career in environmental studies. Jerry has led many projects within Oregon City, and he continues to support our youth year after year. Oregon City is lucky to have these individuals and organizations volunteering their time and services. They have made a long-lasting positive impact in our community. So please join me in recognizing these individuals and organizations on Extra Mile Day, which is coming up on November 1, 2021. And consider how you can give back and go the extra mile in Oregon City. And with that, we do have a couple of the individuals here, and they are receiving a copy of the letter and the actual proclamation. And so if Jerry and Sean, you are here, and I'll give Brandy hers to her later, but we can do a picture and you can receive your proclamations. Okay, right here. Ready, Linn?
So did you want one with all of us that are here? I said, did you want one with all of us commissioners who are here? Since this yeah, we'll look in it, and we'll just pretend, we'll just Photoshop Commissioner Smith in. So we Photoshop in Commissioner Smith. Oh, this is great. You've got it perfect. Yeah, he's got it. Okay, let's look right here.
All right. Okay. So that was the last of the pictures, but I do have one more proclamation. And this is one of our fun ones. These are all good proclamations. Like I said, this is a happy night, so this is a fun night. Commissioner O'Donnell is missing a fun night here. So this is the Oregon City West Linn Rivalry Day. And I will read this proclamation and then make a couple statements. Whereas the City of Oregon City and West Linn wish to recognize their efforts of their citizens to create and maintain a positive family environment where children can learn the value of constructive competition. And whereas the cities of Oregon City and West Linn value tradition and history as essential parts of their communities. And whereas Oregon City High School and West Linn High School, formerly known as Union High School, have competed valiantly in the sport of football continuously since 1921, except during the pandemic of 2020. And whereas on October 29, 2021, the teams representing these schools will renew their annual rivalry for the 101st time. And whereas this is the longest continuously played rivalry west of the Mississippi and therefore worthy of recognition. And whereas the City Commission of Oregon City desires that the Pioneers again defeat the Lions, and the City Council of West Linn desires that the Lions again defeat the Pioneers. Now therefore, we, the City Commission of Oregon City and the City Council of West Linn hereby recognize and commend all citizens who have participated in this annual Gridiron Classic and support the efforts of the current teams by proclaiming October 29th, 2021 to be Oregon City West Linn Rivalry Day. We further recommend, in the spirit of the day, that all citizens wear clothing of the appropriate colors and refrain from crossing the river unless business requires until game time. And that is the end of the proclamation. So Mayor Walters and I will be at the breakfast next Tuesday with the seniors, bright and early at 6:30 in the morning, and we will read this proclamation. The mayor and I will do that. And so I'm really looking forward to that. And of course, the football game.
Yes. May I ask Commissioner Smith a salient question?
Yes.
So Commissioner Smith, where did the part where you can't cross the river come in? Is this something that's always been in there? I mean, you mentioned this last year and, you know, I kind of shrugged it off.
It's been in the proclamation as long as I can remember, so it's gone back quite a long time. I'm not sure when that started.
Yeah, so I need to make sure I wear the right colors at the breakfast on
Yes, red and
next Tuesday.
and white and black, so.
Yeah, I can do that. The other thing I want to mention is that our Oregon City homecoming parade was this past Friday. I saw all kinds of comments about it online. And lots of great things. That parade was actually recorded by Willamette Falls Studio. And so just to let folks know, if you want to see the parade, you can go to our YouTube channel. It is posted there. And you can find it in the Willamette Falls Studio, their recording log. So if you missed the homecoming parade, I heard great things about it. Some of the participants, and I know there were some folks who were not able to participate last year who came, and even some students who had graduated but came back to dance in the parade because they missed out in 2020. So just a really overall good event that I think we were really happy to have this feeling of normalcy coming back. So looking forward to the rivalry. Commissioner Smith, I know you said something about this last year, and I've talked a lot. Do you want to say anything representing the high school?
Not really about, but I will say that the parade was amazing. The parade was incredible. And, we've done that as an annual event other than 2020. It was a huge parade. And I actually just got to watch the parade and kind of walk around the neighborhood and talk to people that were just standing on the street. And it's been a while since we've been able to do something like that and talk to your neighbors and just have fun. I really enjoyed it. It was a blast.
I appreciated the fact that we had traffic control signs up so that if you didn't want to be in the parade traffic, you could go around. I actually was here at the time the parade was leaving, so I got to see all the staging over at the church and got to see the formation of it. And as I has told Commissioner Smith that Oregon City's colors are the same colors of my high school, so it's not real difficult for me to do that either since we have the same colors.
Yeah, big kudos to the Public Works Department for keeping the streets clean afterward and for directing the traffic. It was just, I was able to watch it as well. And I was in marching band in high school, so I was really excited to hear the marching band come back.
Yeah. All right. So with that, that's the end of our ceremonies and proclamations. Best part of the evening. And all right, we're going to move on to citizen comments. Do we have any? No citizen comments? No. All right, then we'll move on to presentations. We have the FEMA Community Rating System. Mr. Lewis, he's coming up to the microphone.
I feel a little more comfortable taking off my mask. So.
Yes, and we can hear you much better too.
Oh, good. Glad you can hear me. Good evening, commissioners. Tonight, we want to go over our annual report for our community rating system. It's definitely an update to an existing multi-jurisdictional plan that we have, natural hazard mitigation plan. If you know, we live on a couple of rivers and a pretty important creek. So thank you. So they have had instances of flooding and where property damage has occurred. And so that's really what this program is all about, is to inform those areas to prevent flood loss in the future. So the majority of this work, the credit goes to Josh Wheeler's team and Aaron Parker. He's been really kind of the sponsor behind picking up this workload. It is a fair amount of workload. And so it's all for a good purpose. We don't have a lot of reoccurring flood properties that result in property damage, but in our biggest events, some of you might remember the 1996 event. Not all of you, but some of you might remember the 1996 event.
Exciting.
I'm sure Denise does, and Rocky probably does too, but events like that really do kind of inundate some of our low-lying areas along Abernathy Creek, along the Clackamas River and the Willamette River. So it is an important program. Really the goal is to help those property owners that are in those areas either move up and get out of the floodplain or move out, help us acquire properties like that. Make sure property owners who are folks who are interested in procuring property might think about that before they actually procure the property. So, yes, we participate in this program. I want to say we're the only one in the county, but the Clackamas County may have a program as well. But last time I looked into it, we were one of the few cities in the county that participates in the CRS program. And it definitely provides insurance discounts. The better we do in terms of bolstering our program, the more discounts the property owners that are in the floodplain get. And while we have aspirations to get to improve our program, we've got a program, but it could always be better. So we are working on that. But in annual certification or recertification ensures the city maintains its current rating. And my recollection is this is an 8-point system, and I forget where we're at on the scale, but we are striving to improve on that. So we're required to present this to you in a public forum as well as publish information. We've got a pretty active website on this. And when we do our annual submittal, we actually include the agenda and the fact that we've been here. So this is an addendum or a portion of the Clackamas County Hazardous Mitigation Plan, and we meet pretty regularly as a emergency management team, Jim and Vance Walker and myself and some other staff meet to talk about hazard mitigation. And in fact, this time around, we talked about some of the things. When we had the fires, we had some resources that we realized we need in terms of evacuation planning. We were thinking this might fall into that category as well, and that would help bolster our renewal. There's an annual report, but there's a 5-year renewal. So our intent is to try to do some things that would increase our score in 2024, I think is the next time we do an improvement. But we're definitely mapping. We've got mapping of floodplains, both through our GIS system and some maps that FEMA produces. Those are available to the public. We make sure that they're available to that. And unfortunately, we haven't seen any flooding recently. Covered that. Where are we at here? So we've got a lot of things like our city code that addresses flooding and make sure property owners are aware of those concerns. We also have our master plans that often deal with flooding. Our stormwater master plan mostly dealt with capital this time around, but and didn't have, most of our stormwater master plan surprisingly isn't necessarily the kind of flooding that we see. There might be localized flooding associated with problem areas in our stormwater master plan, but this program is more focused on high rivers and high creeks. So while we have the stormwater management plan, it doesn't align real well with the program. We do regular inspection and maintenance of facilities, though, to help prevent that localized flooding. Public outreach is a big part of this. So this meeting, for instance, making sure that property owners, when they come in for building permits, they understand where they are in relationship to the floodplain. And we continue to partner with Clackamas County and other emergency preparedness folks to make sure that in a flood, we can do the best we can to serve our community, and that they're best prepared to serve themselves as well. So this year we haven't had a lot of changes to the natural hazard mitigation plan. Like I said, we adopted the stormwater master plan, but it didn't necessarily have a lot to do with flooding in it. But we're continuing to make gains and improve on that program, or at least that's our goal for this upcoming year. We'll continue to pursue the community rating system. We are, really just working together and working to find ways that are meaningful for those folks that are in the floodplain to help keep them informed about kind of best management practices that they can have, and to prevent, really just prevent new liabilities in the floodplain from happening. So with that, happy to try to answer any questions you might have.
No, I don't. I think it's great. Thank you so much for presenting this. And yes, many of us were here during the 96 flood, and it was quite the event. I'm not sure. I think I'd take the flood right now over the ice storm. So, I mean, balancing all the little disasters we've had in town. But yeah, so thank you for that information.
Great.
Yeah. Some of us were not born at the.
You were actually the one I was referring to.
But so, yeah, looking at the scale you were referencing, the 1 to 10, we're at an 8 and the 1 is best. I'm curious where you're hoping to get that in the next few years.
Yeah, it's been a challenge for the program in general, just because there's so many elements to it, and trying to make improvements on several of those. But yeah, this year it's more about trying to enhance our preparedness in that emergency. We do a lot to kind of inform the building permit process. So with our new permit system, we really made some gains there. But it seems like every 5 years, not only is the expectation that we would do more, but that the base becomes the new minimum. So, I think I've looked at other agencies and what they've done, and the idea of hitting a 5 would be amazing for us.
Okay.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Small bites at this pretty big apple for this one, because I guess I would say the discounted rates help, but they're not. There's a lot of work that goes into it, and we don't have that many properties that are still repetitive loss kinds of properties. And so how much effort do you put into a program that has benefits? I don't want to discount the benefits, but they're not as big as you'd think, and yet the workload is heavy. And once you get to a 5, you got to maintain that.
Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner Smith, do you have any questions or comments for Mr. Lewis? No. Okay. Mr. Lewis, my only question is, I'm just wondering, is the CRS system still only focused on flood? I know FEMA had really started moving toward a multi-hazard mitigation with their hazard mitigation plans and stuff like that, but I think the CRS system is still only focused on flood, right?
Yeah, but I do think that some of their staff are starting to suggest that there may be things on the horizon for us. So we'll have to keep that in mind. But I haven't dug into it too much more than that.
Just if we could get FEMA to allow us to address other hazards that are in our hazard mitigation plan as part of the community rating system of like dealing with ice storms and, in addition to flooding and, drought, I mean, there's a whole variety of hazards, landslides, I mean, there's just more that if FEMA would, I just didn't know if they had actually loosened their grip on the community rating system a little bit. And I'm aware that it's a lot of work, a lot of work, so.
Yeah, and I mean, if sometimes these regulatory programs are, they help check the box, but yeah, they generally can be a fair amount of work, and you kind of sometimes question the value of that because it seems like it's more about submitting a report than it is about providing enhancements for property owners who might need them. Oregon City does. I mean, whether it be flooding or all those other programs that you mentioned, I know, Jim and I are always looking at ways to enhance those programs, but there is limits to some of those kind of things, and pretty soon you're just planning for the purpose of planning.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you, Mr. Lewis. Our next item up is adoption of the agenda and the consent agenda. We do need to pull 7D. The OC Brewing, that item about the night work, we need to change the dates of the night work and the resolution and all of that. So this item's needs to get pulled and not addressed. It's going to come back to us at the November 3rd meeting. So that's one item that's going to be pulled and just not addressed. Yes.
John, do you know the dates that they're proposing for OC Brewing?
Mid-November. I have an email of the dates, but it's mid-November. It's right. And we're holding them to a specific period of time. We don't want them out in Washington Street too much, but it's really no change other than dates.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, well, I will, unless there's no other items, I will move approval of the consent agenda with the exception of item 7D.
Second.
All right, motion's been made and seconded. Mr. Wiley?
Aye.
Commissioner Rocky Smith,
Aye.
Commissioner Adam Marl,
Aye.
and Mayor Rachel Lau Smith.
Aye.
Motion passes.
All right, so we have no public hearings this evening. Our next item is general business. 9A, accepting the right-of-way for a portion of Maplelane Court and Maplelane Road. Mr. Lewis, back so soon.
Yeah, this is great. Again, I think more good news, staying on the theme of good news tonight. One of the benefits, I would say, of the vehicle registration fee is the county set aside a fair amount of money for jurisdictional transfers. We haven't done a lot of jurisdictional transfers over the year, even though we have a lot of county jurisdictional roads inside the city limits. This one came about because there's a development proposal that's in the works at Maplelane and Maplelane Court. And as we have struggled in the past with trying to meet all the developers really are the ones who struggle. They're trying to meet our conditions and county conditions on roadway improvements, and that can be problematic. So we've seen that happen in other areas and recognize that there's an easier way to get there. But in the past, the county didn't we have a urban growth, what do we call it? UGMA, Urban Growth Agreement, I want to say. I'm forgetting what the acronym stands for, but it's basically an agreement.
Urban Growth Management Agreement.
UGMA, yeah, Urban Growth Management Agreement for this kind of transfer. And in it, it requires the county to either pay or repave the roadway. In this case, Maplelane Court's not in great condition. We recognize that the developer's on the hook through condition approval to do a lot of the work anyway, but with this agreement with the county, we'll get that check from the county. The county commission has voted on this and approved this. We think it's the right thing to do to both get, have that authority during the land use process to be able to condition the roadway improvements to meet our standards, and also to just have that right away in our management or responsibility. So the amount of payment for this one is $29,384. That is based on the current cost for a 2-inch overlay for that roadway. And we'll set that aside. We'll probably, like I said, the developer's likely going to be conditioned to do part of the improvements, but we'll probably want to finish more of the roadway in that area. So that's our plan anyway. There's mapping in the packet. There's the county's staff report in the packet, and I'm here to answer any questions.
So, Mr. Lewis, are you saying, are we committing to improving that roadway or doing our part, not just collecting the funds? You said the road wasn't very good right now. We're waiting on development. The developer's going to come in and do some development. So I guess I just want to make sure that, are we committing to that, to improving that roadway?
Our intention would be to work with the developer to do the portion of the road that he's not doing, right? So to finish out those improvements.
Okay.
I did have a question.
Commissioner McGriff?
Yes, thank you. Mr. Lewis, so I know that this policy goes back quite a ways, that we were not going to be accepting any roadways from the county unless they either, number one, fixed them or they ponied up the money to fix it. The $29,000 seems quite low. Maplelane it's kind of a mess. I mean, I know we're not taking all of Maplelane, we're just taking that small portion. And I really don't know if I've ever been on Maplelane Court. I know where it is, but what was the agreement between the city and the county that the rate or the amount that we are getting from them, what was that based on?
It's based on the unit cost for a 2-inch overlay. So not necessarily a reconstruction street. It's really just putting down 2 inches of asphalt and doing that. They've got capacity to do that too. So I actually thought it was a reasonable amount. And I think when we pair that with the developer's contribution for the roadway, I think it will cover the needs of the street.
This is obviously some future development.
Future development. Yeah, that's in the land use process right now.
Okay, so we don't really have any plans to reconstruct that portion of that roadway. I mean, like I said, it's not in great shape. I mean, to me, a 2-inch overlay is kind of like a temporary fix.
I just want to make sure, I know there's an element of Maplelane in here. It's a little piece at the intersection, but I'm thinking more Maplelane Court.
Right.
In Maplelane Court, when the development occurs there, they're going to be required to do full depth reconstruct curbs, gutters, sidewalks, all that on their side of the street. We don't have plans for that on the other side, but we'll definitely look at what the needs are of that roadway section and contribute accordingly.
Is there any way that, I'm looking at the exhibit B1, right now it just sort of dead ends. My concern about that would be future development and getting some sort of turnaround so that vehicles can turn around, so that fire apparatus can get in and out of there. It just sort of, like it's the end of the road and then there's the freeway.
Right, so the right-of-way goes pretty much all the way to the ODOT right-of-way, but the end of the road ends short of that ODOT, ends short of that right-of-way. The right-of-way is still platted that way, so this turns all that over. I think the future development of all those parcels in that corner may include incorporation of a cul-de-sac, or they may have a different roadway alignment, but I agree with you. There needs to be a different end treatment that ensures that it's not just a 8-point turnaround to get turned around.
Isn't this where there's a proposed housing apartment complex coming in that particular area on the school district property, former school district property, excuse me?
Right, so right now there's a proposal that's in the land use process that I understand they're planning to start construction on next year, which is for the more northerly end of this. Walnut Street as an intersection. They'll be building that as a through connection all the way to Maplelane Court, and then doing all the frontage improvements along Maplelane Court.
Oh, great. Okay, thank you. That was great.
Any other questions?
We need a motion to accept the right of way?
We need to approve the resolution.
Okay. I got to go back to it because it's not on the agenda. I don't know the number.
Yeah, it's just approving.
2149.
Yeah, 21-49.
I would move that we approve Resolution 2149, accepting the right-of-way for a portion of Maplelane Court and Maplelane Road.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Mr. Wiley?
Commissioner Denise McGriff,
Aye.
Commissioner Rocky Smith,
Aye.
Commissioner Adam Marl,
Aye.
and Mayor Rachel Lyle Smith.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis.
Thank you.
All right, the next item we have is launching of Destination Ready. Mr. Conkle.
Thank you, Mayor. Evening, Commissioners. I'm going to turn this over to our Economic Development Manager, James Graham.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager. Good evening, Mayor and members of the City Commission. I'm James Graham, Economic Development Manager, and I have been looking forward to giving this presentation on Destination Ready because it is another way and another way that we are implementing the tourism strategic plan that was developed several years ago. Thank you. I would also welcome and thank Victoria Mining, who's the CEO of the OC Chamber of Commerce, and she's with us today, as well as Liz Hannum, who is the Executive Director of DOCA. So all three of us will be making a presentation on Destination Ready this evening. Destination Ready really is two things. It's a marketing campaign for our tourism industry on the one hand, and on the other hand, it is a development assistance program for our historic sites and tourist-facing businesses. And so it does both of those things together. The goal here, and I forgot I had this thing here with me. There you go. I'll just go ahead. And so the goal here is really to establish an ongoing relationship with our customers and to establish a loyalty status with them so that they feel that they can come home and relax in an environment that's much more comfortable and familiar with many of them, because Oregon City is a very old community and it's been around for quite a while. In terms of asset assessment, we have to, whenever you do something like this, it's important to assess your assets. And our historic sites, our historic houses, and museums, our library, and other sites are very important to Destination Ready. And as well as our outdoor recreation capabilities and assets, the Willamette and the Clackamas rivers, and of course Clackamas Park, which is our main park in the city. Agritourism, wineries, craft, beverage businesses are also important to this initiative. And so we want to make sure that we market and promote our local artisans and craft products. Oregon City is comprised of actually three communities in one. The downtown gives you a feeling of a small business boutique setting. The Midtown District, historical sites and community charm in our Midtown area. And of course, our Hilltop District is considered familiar shopping with restaurant and other kinds of services there. In terms of our objectives, it's important that we establish a brand for Oregon City, a brand slogan and a brand, and to implement the promotion strategy that highlights the city's tourism assets. It's important to identify and market to targeted audiences, and we'll talk about who they are in a few moments. And we need to also create a coordinated network amongst our stakeholders. It's important that we also enhance the community aesthetics. And it's also a fairly important thing to leverage the holidays, as many of them as we can, because holidays, home and holidays go together. And so our special events are designed to also increase visitation. But all in all, we need to continually strengthen Oregon City's tourism industry. In terms of the target market, there are three distinct target markets we're looking at. Individuals in their early 20s and early 30s. Now, these individuals are most likely interested in the outdoors, recreational opportunities, and the artisan or craft goods. Our other target group would be individuals between the ages of 41 and 56, I should say families with young children between the ages of 41 to 56, seeking a safe environment where they can have an educational experience throughout as a consequence of our historic sites or assets. Could be of special interest to young children. The baby boomers between the ages of 57 and 75, they have disposable income. And so therefore, fine wine tasting and good food and antique retail shopping and scenic outdoor tours may be something of interest to them. What you're looking at is a map of our target market. And the reason that we have a target market that looks that way is because we have entered into a relationship with KATU TV, and they cover that market as well as other television and marketing firms cover the same market. So you can see it's quite large. It is comprised of, in terms of TV households, 1.3 million TV households. There's about 3% African Americans in that map that you just saw, and 9.4% Latinx community individuals and families. In terms of adults, there are about that are 18 and over. There are about 2.6 million people in that area. And so that's a lot of individuals that will have their eyes and hopefully their ears, and some of them, not all of them at once, of course, would visit Oregon City as we promote it. Promotion venues. We intend to use everything at our disposal to market and promote Oregon City. This is supposed to be a long-term campaign. It's not a one-time shot type of situation. It is over a 2-year period. And as you can see, there's a list of things that we intend to use to promote the city, its assets. The important thing about Oregon City that it is a very unique community, not only to the state of Oregon, but to the nation. And it's important that we promote the history of Oregon City, and then all the other things come in as a consequence of that reality. The slogan for this initiative is called Oregon's Hometown, Welcome Home. And with that, I will turn it over to Liz Hannum.
Actually, I'll take that on.
Okay.
So the destination-ready strategies. First, to establish a marketing campaign that encompasses and promotes Oregon City in its entirety. And then in collaboration with DOCA to utilize their trademark tagline, we'll emphasize and solidify the campaign message, Oregon's hometown, welcome home. We'll be developing a coordinated approach with stakeholder collaboration with the city and its many participants. We'll be enhancing the community by installing public art, streetscape lighting, and other infrastructure that will enhance the visitor's experience. We'll be working with community organizations to develop programming which maximize the impact of major holidays and occasions. And then using programs developed via the tourism industry information network to build and strengthen Oregon City's tourism industry. Liz.
So to get into a little bit more detail, we're calling this the facelift for our community to get ready for this campaign. So the first thing we want to do is add more lighting to our streetscape in especially the downtown and eventually the Arch Bridge. As the 100-year anniversary is coming up next year, we'd really like to celebrate and enhance that feature of our downtown. We also thank you for approving murals in the community as the commission. We're really excited. I don't know if you've noticed, but one of our restorations was completed last week. It looks fantastic. And we've got 2 more planned within the springtime area. And then we've got lots more people who are interested in either restorations or new murals in our community that we'll be supporting over this strategy. And then we are also working both with the city downtown association to improve our ped bike infrastructure. So we're talking about public restrooms, bike parking, crosswalk safety. We've got the TDM is actually working on a design, an artistic design to enhance that safety for some of our crosswalks there. And then we've got signage and wayfinding coming that will help the tourists find their way to different places. Move to, yep. And then we've got 2 more sections. The building facade is really for those rear facing and rooftop areas. We have a very unique vantage point with the elevator and the promenade onto downtown. And so we really want to take advantage of the rooftops as well as the backsides of buildings so that we can kind of give the best impression of our community and our downtown. And then throughout the community, we hope to put up some streetlight banners, some cross-street banners, and working with private entities as well to market this specific campaign of Oregon's hometown, welcome home. So that's one of the major things that we're working on.
All right, and so the continued strategy of securing our assets, looking at celebrating the celebratory experiences and utilizing those recreation opportunities. So some special programming for some historic sites, utilizing those outdoor recreation experiencing, maybe enhancing some river access, boating tours, that kind of thing will bring a real asset to our city. Enhancing the walking and cycling trails. Actually augmenting some of the craft beverage events, bars, restaurants, rooftop, that whole atmosphere. And then, of course, increasing special events and truly utilizing those automatic things that we can all embrace and get involved in.
I guess I'll...
James, I think, was going to take over that.
Oh, no, I think this is just an example of some of those events that we're going to try to utilize a little bit better. Not better, but enhanced over the course of the next year here. And then hopefully continue on into a long-term strategy.
So what you're looking at right now are other programs that we will be utilizing to implement Destination Ready. We've already mentioned Destination Ready's marketing campaign, but there are other programs that are involved here. The Concierge Institute, earlier in the discussion, I had mentioned that not only is this a marketing campaign, but the other component of it is a development instrument to help our historic sites stay open and also function and eventually become self-supporting. And so we do that through a number of ways. In many ways, we'll have a series of courses that people can take, as well as some consulting services to help them implement what they have been going over in terms of their classes or courses. And then in that one size does not fit all, we would engage all of our historic sites to ask them, what do you need? And to work out an arrangement where we provide direct resources to those sites so that they can meet the challenge of staying open on a set schedule. And that's extremely important. So the Concierge Institute, its first class, I believe, is next week, October the 27th, I believe. Or is that true, Victoria? What is it? Is it November?
November.
I believe next week is one of our courses we're holding. But we're having courses such as financial literacy, as well as the other one is digital marketing and media. Digital marketing and social media. And there's a whole array of courses, but those are just the two that we're going to be starting off with. Community Showcase. Some of you are already familiar with Community Showcase. I don't know if any of you ever won certificates, but Community Showcase is where you go to the website and you would see either a video of some of our historic sites or some other type of video whereby you have to answer questions after the video. And if you get a percentage of those right, then your name is entered into a drawing, and 40 or 50 people are chosen as consequence, and they would very well receive dining or certificates in the amount of $40 each for 50 individuals each month. That's how it has been running, and that's the Community Showcase. The Arts Treasure Trove is all things art, not including murals, including poetry, including singing, including music. It's all things art, and we want to bring all of that to Oregon City, because in economic development, art is actually considered an economic development driver, and people who enjoy the arts usually spend money because art and retail they complement each other. Destination development. Well, this is an initiative to attract experiences to Oregon City. I mean, how many hamburgers can you eat? But it's important that we attract experiences to this community so that people will enjoy what we have to offer, but also some new experiences. And that very well may require us going to other communities outside of Clackamas County and attracting them to Oregon City. And then the last one is the tourism network itself, passing along information to each other in the tourism industry in terms of what's going on, and using the website that's already up and running. And there's a calendar to post events on the website. So all of this is designed to really help build the tourism industry over time. Obviously, it's not going to be able to build it overnight, but it's going to take a little time and a great deal of effort. The timeline. This is a projected timeline, but overall, much of the marketing and advertising occurs in basically really the spring of 2022. But while we're going through the winter, we're working to prepare ourselves for the early spring of 2022. And then you will see some major changes, including banners on our street poles that you saw earlier and some other types of aesthetic changes throughout the city. So it's going to ramp up slowly because we also have to be careful about the situation with the virus. And so we're approaching this very, very carefully. And so therefore, in the spring of 2022, this ramps up in a big way. But as it stands right now, we are working with our industry to help them get prepared for the visitors that we expect to be coming to Oregon City as a consequence of an increased marketing campaign. So I thank Victoria and also Liz for working with me on this. We've been working together on this for, I guess, 2 or 3, 4 months. And so we have been looking forward to presenting this to the group. Some of you have seen it already, and a lot of people have already seen it already, but we just wanted to take this opportunity and this audience to present Destination Ready. Thank you, ma'am.
All right, thank you, Mr. Graham. I know I have several questions, but I'll go to the commission first. Commissioner Smith.
All right, I think this is the 4th time I've been through this, probably in a lot of meetings recently. I still have a lot of questions, but I do want to thank Liz and I want to thank Victoria for their work, also our staff's work recently on this. But I have to say we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for DOCA and the work that they did in 2019, which is when the website was created. So this isn't a new website. The slogan, all of this is a lot of work that DOCA has been doing for several years and has laid the groundwork for this. I think one of the big successes so far has been really the beginning of a collaboration. I think this is the first time I've seen in a very long time DOCA and the chamber working so closely together and aligned. I think now we just need to make sure the city's aligned with that and working on that, and I think that's happening. But I think I was kind of surprised with the amount of people that wanted to send notes to me this week about this, and emails and text messages about what the heck is going on. I know that a lot of people in the heritage community know what's going on and have been involved in this for months, but one of the issues that I had in not approving the budget was for the city budget, is because of the price tag associated with this plan. And it's not that I think that it's too much necessarily. I just don't know where the breakdown is. And for a community that goes from 0 to a huge price tag, that's a big jump for a lot of people in Oregon City to kind of question that. And so I really think we need to be a little bit more transparent on the breakdown of all of that. Because I think a lot of people have been asking us that, and I haven't really heard a lot of solid answers on that. My main concern, I think, is the timing. So I do have questions regarding that. I guess let me start. I have really a long list of things, but I'll try to skim through them a little bit. One of the things is our tourism program specialist is leaving. And so our tourism program specialist basically spent all week presenting this plan and kind of the Concierge Institute to all the heritage groups who actually didn't know he was leaving. And so I was told last night that the Concierge Institute was going to start within the next week. I questioned that because I said, how are we going to tell people when it was supposed to originally start this weekend that it's now starting next week? I think that's really hard to get people to get incorporated in that amount of time. I'm also a little concerned. I think the Concierge Institute obviously is great, and I think it has a lot of benefits. I don't know exactly how those individual 8 topics or 9 topics got settled on. I kind of wish that would have been more of a dialogue with the heritage groups of what their needs were before we created the Concierge Institute, because my worry is that we're creating this institute. We don't know if those are the needs that are really needed in each individual group. And I think that could have been a really easy dialogue with the heritage community on what their needs are, because I think the timeline is really crucial here. You know, if we're shooting for hopefully things to open spring and summer, the hope is that we have something accomplished by that point. And I think that's kind of what this plan is alluding to. But I guess what I'm wondering is, it seems like we're fronting a lot of the advertising in the winter, and we don't have things open. So I'm curious as to, one, the Concierge Institute and how that's going to be implemented with a staff member leaving and having to be replaced, which is not going to be a simple thing. Who's going to actually institute the Concierge Institute during that time period? How much is it costing us to put that on? At the end of it, what is the outcome? And I know that the outcome is that the majority of the heritage sites participate in this Concierge Institute. At first it was said that they were expected to attend all of them, and last night I was told, well, maybe parts of them and maybe one person go to one, and it went from 8 sessions to 12 or more than that, because the sessions were going to be broken up into 2. And then at the end of that, people may have an opportunity for grants, but we don't know what that looks like, and we don't know how much would be given. I think there's still a lot of questions here, and I'm not downplaying the need of it. I just feel like this process has been super confusing, and this is a huge time commitment to ask people that are so already committed to meetings after meetings after meetings to put in 12 nights over the next 12 weeks when we don't even know who's, kind of leading it, or who even the instructors are. So I have those concerns. I guess I'll ask that question first. Who's going to be leading it staff-wise? And then what are we spending on the concierge piece specifically?
I will be leading it. We have a hardworking staff also with Ann Griffin, and so in terms of those courses, I will be leading those until we get a replacement. And then in terms of the Concierge Institute, of course, this is all part of the budget document that the council passed. So there are various elements there, and it's
not detailed enough, James. It's pretty vague.
Yeah, but it's in recording. And you also attended a meeting with myself and the city manager when we disclosed this to you, and you thought it was a good plan, and you thought it was fine. So there's a lot.
I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that exactly. The plan in general is fine. The timing is not necessarily right, and I questioned that. I didn't pass the budget because I didn't have enough information in a breakdown of the budget. I think we still don't. Clearly, if the citizens are asking why is this costing us so much, we don't know how much we're spending specifically on the TV ads, on the radio ads, and I'm curious why we're focusing all those ads specifically in the winter. When is the topic of the ads focused on the retail and dining, or is it on the heritage component? Do we know what those theming are? They general or are they specific?
It's all of that. It's specific in terms of some of the historic. Actually, it's specific in terms of the historic sites. It very well may be general in terms of our restaurants and other assets, but much of the advertising will not occur in the winter. It begins in the spring of 2022.
Well, the plan lists it as primarily in the winter.
Well, if you look at the presentation, and I'm looking at it is clearly, the advertising starts the spring of 22, but I'm just telling you now.
Oh, so in your plan, it says winter 2021, billboards, TV spots, radio spots. It doesn't say that for 2020 for the spring. It says billboards for the spring. So you're primarily focused on winter.
Spring of 2022, highway billboards, rooftop art, painting the back of buildings.
Right. Look at winter. That's where all your advertising is.
Winter is downtown lighting, improvements, special events, tourism video, the Concierge Institute, pamphlets and brochures, marketing, collateral. This is the development period for the winter of 2021. And so but I'm telling you right now that the marketing will occur in the spring of 2022.
Okay, that's not what your plan says. So I think that's, that's concerning. All right. So is this budget goes over the 2-year cycle? Is it fronted, in the winter, spring, or is it stretched out throughout the whole time?
It's stretched over 2 years.
Okay, I'd like to see more of a breakdown on that. All right. So we're doing the advertising in the spring.
Correct.
All right. And banners and those things go up in the spring?
Yes, they do. Early spring.
Can you talk to how the Concierge Institute is going to be linked to grants?
The Concierge Institute is, those who are attending the Concierge Institute, of course, we expect all of our historic sites to be a part of that throughout the entire Concierge Institute. And there are about approximately 12 courses covering that series. And once you finish, and those courses actually were developed during one of our tourism network meetings, actually last year, when the Concierge Institute had its own group of individuals and of course Liz Hannon was a part of that, as well as Victoria.
I was a part of that as well.
Yeah, so you should remember that. So that was going on, and so as we proceeded, the Concierge Institute, once you get through those courses, then we will talk with every site to determine what do you really need to stay open and how can we help you. Now, of course, we're not going to be able to provide of everything they ask for, because they have to be part of the solution too. But it can take the form of a small grant. It can take the form of volunteers. It can take the form of students that might want to very well be get into the hospitality business, so they can very well maybe internships. So I mean, it's designed to be flexible, so that people can get the assistance they need. It's not a one-size-fits-all.
The grants, how does that work?
The grants are, if there are to be grants awarded based on the need, we're looking at a specific amount. It very well may be approximately $2,500 grant to assist an agency with staying open. It might be $3,000 grant, depending on what the situation is. And then, but it's not a competitive thing. Everyone who needs some type of assistance will receive some type of assistance to stay open and to have set schedule. And also, it's important that they become self-sufficient, because you can't live on grants year in, year out. It's very difficult. So it's important that these historic sites learn about programming, learn about merchandising, and charge for the services that they provide. So it's a whole new world, and it will be a whole new world for them, but they cannot survive on grants. It's extremely difficult.
So I guess the one thing that I'm curious about is if we, in the process of starting all of this, were in the conversation that one of the main priorities for our heritage sites was consistency between hours, coordinating together, ticketing, things like that. I'm not sure how the concierge, Institute connects to those pieces, and that those pieces are in place as we move into the tourist season, because clearly right now during the winter time, which is why I think questioning some of the advertising is a lot of, at least I think half of our museums are not quite open yet. Some won't, at least one won't be open for 2 years. So, you know, I don't want to see us putting a lot of resources into marketing through the winter and even into the beginning of spring if we're not ready for it. And so I'm curious, I just think, you know, we're running out of time here. We've been talking about this. I hope that we are in a place that when we get to the summer and when we get to the summer that we're ready. And I'm not sure we have the pieces right here to do that. So that's my big concern. I'll leave it at that. I do support the tourism plan. I think the tourism plan, I'm not sure that the direction we're taking right now necessarily connects. I don't see necessarily the connections to the original tourism plan as much as I would like to. And so I hope to see that collaboration continue, but I still have a huge amount of questions.
Okay, Commissioner Morrow.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, James and Victoria and Liz. It's great to see you guys. I just have 2 questions for now. The first one, looking at the timeline for the winter of this year for the downtown lighting improvements, is that in reference to the Metro Enhancement Grant that we approved for those lighting fixtures?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Go ahead.
So we should be in the engineering phase fairly shortly. And then we hope to have them, the lights executed in the springtime.
That's great. Thank you. And then the other one, it's a little more overarching and it's pretty similar to what Commissioner Smith was saying. I was under the impression that Destination Ready, the 680,000 was going to all go toward the marketing side of things. I didn't realize that it was an umbrella term for Concierge Institute, Community Showcase, Arts Treasure Trove, Destination Development, Oregon City Tourism Network. And so I'm curious if you could give like a very rough breakdown of like what you would consider the proportion of dollars going toward the actual marketing versus the rest of those line items.
I would say, in terms of, to answer your question, about 50% toward marketing.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner McGriff, do you have anything?
Commissioner Smith said we've both seen this presentation a number of times. As always, I would, concur with Commissioner Smith that, a little more detail would be helpful, and I'll just leave it at that.
All right, so I have a few questions that I've written down and comments. So I found the map interesting that we were leaving out the city of Bend in our marketing, and it seems like it's paired just with the K2, I guess, news reach. Are there other ways that we're planning to reach Bend, or is there any thought about that? I mean, Bend advertises here about coming and visiting Bend, and I think there's a lot of cross-range travel that's going between Portland and Bend, so I would think that that would be a natural place. Do you have any comments on that?
Yes, actually, it's very interesting that the map that I showed you, it does represent the coverage of KATU. It also represents the coverage of other TV stations. But what actually happens is people who live in Bend and other areas that are not covered actually still see. There's a lot of bleed over. And then, of course, there are other things that we're going to be doing other than TV commercials, and there will be billboards, and there will be also collateral materials placed strategically in high visitation areas like the Maloma Falls and other places. So they will be reached, but it's really kind of an indirect bleed over. It does happen.
Okay. I like what you're presenting. It looks like a really robust program, which it should be for the money that we're contributing to it. I'm wondering about some of the key items, like regarding our destinations, for example. Like I kind of really think that the wagons need to be painted. Like, there's some things that, you know, before we start sending, you know, hopefully a whole bunch of people respond, I'm just wondering, you know, is that anywhere in the equation?
To answer your question, I think that's part of the public works. Not public works.
It's parks.
Parks and rec budget.
But it's really part of our tourism. I mean, I understand, Joe, you made Mr. Lewis, you know, like, about have a heart attack. He was like, what? I got to paint some wagons?
I got Mount Lewis to protect, man. I'm not gonna have time for that.
No, I recognize it's parks, but it's also very much tied to tourism and sending a bunch of people there. And we've heard comments that, you know, it looks kind of shabby. So I'm just wondering, like, has there been any discussion about anything like that, like about painting the wagons, for example?
I'm sure they are with the landlord, but the money that we have here is not designated for real estate.
I think that has something to do with the fact that we have an agreement at the end of the or Clackamas Heritage Partners and some of the maintenance. We partner, as I understand, but, you know, I go back to the time, I want to see the wagon covers back.
Covered, yeah.
I mean, that's, you know.
Yeah,
I still.
moving the needle was just painting them, but yeah,
Yes,
I mean,
but yes,
ideally they would
it
have
is.
covers.
The thing that was so interesting about those being removed was that they said, well, they looked shabby and they were torn. Well, did you see any of the pictures of the wagons that came across? They had patches on them. They had, we could have taken a giant needle with the PGE things and done patches on them, and it would have been perfectly fine. They did not need to look pristine.
Yeah.
So, but.
They would have looked more like true era, like wagons that were
Absolutely, they would have looked very authentic.
All right.
I could just step in. I think that I have the EOT on the list of property owners that we were going to do that painting back facade. So they are on my list at least. So I'm not sure if the money is going to end up in that budget, but they're in the list of people that we have that want to get a facade improvement.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And so you mentioned boats and doing tourism, and I think we discovered this past summer that we have issues with the dock and large boats being able to dock there. Has that issue been resolved, or is that on your to-do list?
That is definitely on my to-do list in working with Parks and Rec. Hopefully we will be, and of course, Parks and Rec is taking the lead in meeting with the Marine Board so that we can have that discussion. But the docks are very important to attracting that type of tourism experience, and we have to have those kind of experiences.
Commissioner Smith, do you have something on that before I move to my next item?
Well, it's regarding parks in relationship with ECDEV, so I can wait.
Oh, okay. I found it interesting that you had public restroom on the list of things that we've been talking about a public restroom for a while. So are you planning on building a public restroom?
We're planning on buying at least one. It's actually a high-tech restroom where it cleans itself, it locks itself, it opens itself. It's a high-tech kind of not restaurant, but restroom.
The Portland Loo is what they call it.
And it's going downtown?
Yes.
We have a spot for it and...
Well, we're working with, we're working with actually Public Works, truly, to identify a place for something like that.
Heads up, John. I didn't know if you knew that.
Well, he knew about that, so it didn't scare him so much.
I find it interesting.
I think we all agree the need for the public restrooms. I think that there's logistical and financial things that we need to address and figure out. Goal, it's been identified. What that ends up looking like is trying to be vetted out.
Still determined. Okay.
So the allotted money here does not necessarily go to something like a restroom installation.
Well, I'm sorry, the math, I didn't hear you.
So the money that has been allotted is not necessarily going toward that. That's more of a goal that we're.
That's more of a goal, yes.
Okay.
Oh, okay. All right, so I guess with that, I'll just make a couple comments. I agree with Commissioner Smith about I'd like to see more information about the 680,000, a little bit more details on that budget of what that's looking like. It's a lot of money, and I think we need to be more transparent about where the money is going. Since it's a 2-year program that's spending that money, I would like to see a 2-year timeline. I feel like your timeline only gave us 1 year, and now I don't think that timeline was correct. So I think an updated timeline, because what you read off and what was in that presentation was two different things of the timeline, which is what Commissioner Smith was trying to get to. So if we could just, if you come back or if you provide some details on the budget and maybe that timeline of how do you see the whole biennium kind of looking if you're spending this money and spreading things out? It seems like a lot of work focused on the first year, or whenever that year starts. I mean, I think the work is great. It's just a lot. So it leaves me wondering what's in the second year, and you know, what's going to be spent in the second year. So just a little more information there.
Sure, I'll be glad to provide some information.
And I do have some questions along with Commissioner Smith about the grant program. I'd be interested in learning a little bit more about who you're planning to give money to and what that grant program looks like. Is it just for people who are participating in this concierge, and who have we advertised that to? Is it other businesses in Oregon City? Well, how did we pick these? You know, like when we start handing out money to businesses, I think we just need to be really thoughtful about that. And we're singling out ones. I believe you said it wasn't even like they could apply. Like we were going to be very intentional about who we were giving money to. And so makes me a little nervous. I would like to, again, agree with Commissioner Smith. I'd like to hear more information about that before I'm not fully sold on that. I have some concerns. But overall, lots of work. It looks great. I mean, I think it'd do some really great things for us. So, and Liz and Victoria, thank you for presenting and your work and your partnership on this. I know we wouldn't be doing this without DOCA and without the chamber and all of the folks that you are working with. So I really do appreciate that. And I'll circle back to Commissioner Smith, who has his hand up.
One of the questions is, I know Parks is very much in the process of coming back and finalizing their plan for special events. So my question is, I don't expect all of that to be implemented, obviously, by the summer. But I guess my question would be, you know, in this process of the destination ready, if we could at least have a dialogue from tourism and ECDEV to Parks on how we can support events through that summer season, I think that's absolutely crucial. We've lost almost all of our city events. And as we know, one of the things in our goals process was the identity of the city, as told to us by our public, is based on our events, and we've lost all of them almost. So what is our plan to support those events as we go into the spring and the summer? I think that's absolutely crucial, and that's not discussed in here. And I know Parks is working on the special events piece, so you know, how those come together in the next few years is important, but especially for this upcoming season. I have to apologize to Liz and Victoria. I think if they were making this presentation tonight, it would have gone a lot better. And I have a lot of concerns. Are we voting on this tonight, or it's a budget expenditure and the budget was approved? Is this a vote on item on this tonight, or is this just a presentation?
Commissioner, I take exception to your words. I think what you just said is offensive to me, and I will not take that type of abuse from you. All of us had a role to play in this, and you are part of the city too. You're a decision maker. And so therefore, you can't point your fingers at me and simply not ignore yourself. So I will not take that type of abuse from you from this point forward.
Well, I've asked some pretty basic questions, and none of them have been very answered successfully. And I know that's partially because Matt has been doing a lot of work, and you have too. But there's a disconnect because even in the meeting last night, I was hearing completely different things. So. We weren't even aware tonight of when this first session is starting. Clearly, some of us think it's starting a month from now. Some of us think it's starting tomorrow or next week. I mean, those are basic things. I don't think that's calling you out, and other than saying I'm asking basic questions and I'm not getting answers, and I feel uncomfortable about that.
Well, I think it's apparent that there's a bias, and that's the problem I have.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
I would hope not going forward.
Absolutely not.
Good. Next question.
Well, I didn't get that question answered, which was, and it wasn't a specific question to you specifically. It was, is this a voting item? I mean, this is a budgetary item, and the budget was passed. Are we actually voting on this as an item tonight, or is it, since it's in the budget already?
This is a presentation, simply as a presentation, information for the commission.
Okay.
All right, Commissioner Morrow.
Thank you. After having checked my other notes, I have two more questions. The first one being, have you guys set any firm goals for the outcome of this? By this time, we want to have attracted this or these many visitors to show that this is reaching some sort of benchmark for the money that we're putting into this.
Yes, matter of fact, we're developing those goals really with KATU because we want to make sure that we're on the mark. But this is a business venture. And like any business venture, and like anyone who's been in business, they will tell you that you start something out. It's not going to be perfect starting out. But as you go along, you correct what you find and you go forward. It's how you approach challenges that matters. But to answer your question, yes, we're going to have milestones, but we're working with KATU on all of that.
Thank you. And, Liz.
I'll just throw out too, we do have some baseline data pre-COVID as well as during COVID for visitors to the elevator specifically. So we have a baseline understanding of where our tourism was. So when we develop those goals, we do have a benchmark that we can work off of.
Awesome. And then for the other one, do you, I know it's early on and we're trying to figure out what we're doing in the next biennium, or in this biennium, but do you foresee bringing this back to us in the next one? Because, promoting our city is not just a one-time thing, but also recognizing that this is a large sum of money and trying to figure out what kind of commitment we're getting ourselves into.
It's ongoing. I mean, you can spend actually $1 million or $3 million in marketing. I mean, you can spend as much money as you want in marketing, but we have a very defined program. We do have a breakdown of how we'd like to spend the money, and we're watching every nickel. And so I can assure you that we want to make sure that whatever we spend, particularly on the historic sites, I'm extremely concerned about them. And I want them to be strong, I want them to be open, and I want them to be self-sufficient. And that's the important thing.
Thank you.
And my question involves, so as somebody who will probably be participating in the Concierge Institute, so when are we anticipating that it's going to start? Because I have it on my calendar for today and tomorrow.
Well, actually, there was no way to start it today. Matter of fact, but I think it's going to be beginning next week, and if not, certainly in November.
Okay. All right. Well, I will get back to you and get my calendar so I can delete this from my calendar, which makes me very happy. Thank you.
All right. So it sounds like we had some dates that got rearranged, or maybe.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would say that if it's possible, would you all agree that I think this is an exciting step. We are into a little bit of unknown territory, and I think it would be really helpful if we had some regular updates We have some information that Mr. Graham's going to bring back, which is involving some more detail on the budget. But I think it is good for us to have updates from the standpoint that we can talk about, you know, what's going great, what do we have to backtrack on a little bit. Not that that's bad. I mean, again, we're going to be learning, as he said, as we move forward. Sometimes things don't always turn out exactly the way we think, so we can pivot. And I think that's part of Mr. Graham's program, is that he's trying to be firm in the path, but also be nimble. Would I say that's
true?
Is a correct statement?
That's correct.
So I think maybe, you know, something like maybe every other month as an update, so we can see how this is going.
Yeah, I definitely think we could benefit from some updates, and it could be part of the goals update. This is a goal item, and I know that City Manager Conkle was thinking about strategies and ways that we can, you know, receive more frequent updates about all of our goals and the items that are going on with that. And so I know that's an active conversation that staff are working on, and so certainly this item would be in there, but you know, if our agendas allow and have some time, like evenings like tonight, which is nice, then yes, I think some updates on this program would be really good. You have more?
Yeah, I'll just say that I concur with Commissioner McGriff. I would like to see some more information about this moving forward because I want to see this be a success. I'm excited for this, and I think that our small business community desperately needs that, I guess, shot in the arm after a year and a half like the one we just endured and what we're continuing to endure now. So I'm excited to watch this progress. And so thank you again to Mr. Graham and Victoria and Liz.
Yeah, I would just say for Mr. Graham, just so in case you forget, so if you talk about Oregon City we're 177 this year. So that's your magic number since we had our 175th. So we're aging gracefully, which is good as a city.
All right, and it sounds like maybe there's some budget things that may end up coming up, things that we're talking about that weren't necessarily budgeted with that 680,000, talking about the restrooms and the wagons that we talked about, what are line items with parks and stuff like that. Like there's so much within the city that's interconnected with tourism that it's, you know, it's going to take the whole village to bring this along and all of the departments. And so sounds like you have a good strategy. Liz, looks like you have.
Yeah, I was just going to say, before you move on to the next thing, I wanted to invite all of you to our trick-or-treating event next week. We are starting to celebrate those holidays as part of our tourism plan. So Friday, October 29th, sorry, fire department's right next to my apartment. Friday, October 29th, 4 to 6 p.m., we're inviting the whole community to come trick-or-treat downtown. And we would love to see you join us there. And then adult trick-or-treating is on Saturday night, if you'd like to join us at a pub crawl.
And also, Mayor, I'd like to also thank John Lewis for working with us and closing part of Main Street for this Halloween event. Because without his staff, that wouldn't have helped. And the city staff doesn't get enough credit for what they do.
All right, kudos all around. Victoria, you've been quiet. Any last thoughts before we close this item from you?
No, just appreciating the collaboration and partnerships that are going on, and looking forward to what's going to become of all this.
All right, well, thank you for presenting and joining us via Zoom. And thank you, Mr. Graham. I think we'll move on in the agenda.
Be down handing out candy and costumes.
All right, so the next agenda item is communications. Mr. Conkle.
Thank you. I have an update from Chief Band.
Good evening. Our Oregon City Emergency Operation Plan is, I think they're 4 years that each one is, and it's set to expire December of 2021. We always do our manual just after the county does their manual. They're about 90% complete with their manual. add more work to do on it because of all the things that we've talked about a couple times tonight about wildfires and ice storms. And we want to make sure that we're using their completed manual to inform our manual. So our plan is to push that off about 6 months. And once their manual is complete, use that to update our manual and have that completed by July 1st, essentially, of 2022. So that's our plan, and that will be coming before you sometime spring, early summer.
Chief Band, do you know if the county has ever finished their after-action lessons learned report from the wildfire event of 2020?
Yes, I believe they did.
It's interesting. They haven't shared it with anybody, so.
You read my mind because we had that all on our list that we were waiting for, see what the 360
Yep.
review was.
Yep.
Okay.
I can find it, and
We can reach out to Trent at the county and
That'd be great.
ask them for it. I think our commission would like to review that report.
I know there was a staff meeting where they went through their report. I didn't go, but some of my staff went. So I know that, they're sharing and providing that feedback at a staff level.
Well, I know we've talked about it at the Clackamas County Coordinating. There's a lot of jurisdictions, we had a lot of thoughts about how that event went down. And so I think we have an interest in knowing that they learned and we're making changes based off of what we learned from that event, and it flows into our emergency operations. And so I would love to see a connection there, and I'd like to see what they have documented of what things could have gone better. I know there was lots of comments in the room from the surrounding jurisdictions, and including comments from myself about the evacuation of Oregon City. Anyway, I was just wondering if you had heard, because I had heard that it was coming and I still haven't seen it. So thank you, Chief Band.
It'll be hundreds of pages where we talk about communication, I'm fairly certain.
Oh, boy.
All right, Mr. Conkle.
That does it for tonight. Thank you.
All right. Any other communications?
I have some good news.
Commissioner McGriff.
Thank you. I try to attend the farmer's market at least 3 to 4 times a month, but I wanted to report that I spent some time this last weekend talking with the farmer's market manager, Jess, and she wanted me to pass on to you. They've just turned in their Metro Enhancement Grant report, but she wanted me to report to you that the funding that we were able to give through the grant has had better than expected results. They are now able to increase the amount of match to $30 because of our funding, not only our funding, but the Rotary Club has given some money as well, and they have some private donors. But the amount of people that they have served has pretty much tripled. And they are seeing more and more participation by the SNAP and PEBT recipients. And the thing that we should be most proud of is that more people now have access to fresh food and are less reliant on, packaged things. And so that trickles down to the students, that trickles down to better learning, that trickles down to more concentration. So good news all around, and they are just very grateful for our participation.
Commissioner Morrill, do you have anything? No. Commissioner Smith, do you have anything for communications?
No.
No. All right. I don't think I have anything either. Just reminder, wear your colors, wear your Oregon City High School colors celebrate for our rivalry with West Linn, don't forget. And I think that's it. And with that, we'll adjourn. All right.